Alrighty, welcoming you back into the Okali women's basketball OSU student recap. That was way long, so we'll restart it again.
Mobile version.
Yeah. Alright, what are we? This is the OSU, this is the Okali women's basketball Bedlam recap. Alrighty, Sadeep, edit here. Alrighty, welcoming you back into the Okali OSU women's basketball game recap. Jacob, we're recapping OSU's Bedlam victory, a 66-53 victory. Coach Littell called it the most important game of the season.
Yeah, and I mean the Cowgirls certainly looked the part in this one, and that might be because the Cowgirls were really prepared, and I thought they were pretty prepared for the game. But you also have to keep in mind OU played with 7 players today, and when you're playing with that little amount of depth, that's going to be a problem. And I thought that's kind of what the story of the game was.
No doubt, Jacob. You said before OSU had what was it? 4 players who played, no, 3 players who played 40 minutes. Is that right?
4 players that played 40 minutes.
4 players who played the whole game, and I've played my fair share of rec basketball, and I get tired. Like those girls were tired, especially having this issue has been in the past too. So in the last couple games for them, they've had a very limited roster. So yeah, Jacob, the Sooners had a tall task to climb, before this game even started.
Yeah, and one of the things that Coach Littell said that was the strategy that OSU kind of implemented in this game was to get the ball out of Tott's hands. And Tott is the point guard for OU, by the way, and she played. It was a pretty tough game for her, actually. She only had 3 points and she shot 1 out of 12. And the Cowgirls certainly focused in on her because I think from what Coach Littell indicated to us, she was the only point guard available for Oklahoma. And, they did a really good job slowing her down. And I thought they made life really tough on her. And that really influenced a lot of the way this game went.
For sure. And even though the Sooners had, were kind of behind the 8 ball to begin with, I thought the Cowgirls played well, right? It's never easy. I don't care how many players the other team has to go into the opposing team's gym and win in Bedlam, which is exactly what Oklahoma State did today. Jacob, I'm sure there were several players that you could probably pick out. Maybe who were some of the players that stood out to you on the Oklahoma State side from the game today?
Yeah, one of the people I think stood out to you that by looking at the stats, I kind of agree with you is Taylor Collins really stood out in this one. I thought she played pretty well from what I saw. It was more, felt it was kind of more quiet, but that might have been just me. I don't know if that's similar to what you thought, but for what she did today, I think that's certainly a confidence boost. And I'm sure that the Cowgirls are certainly going to use her even more than they were previously, which, by the way, was not a little amount. They use her a lot. And, I mean, the way that they're producing, the way that she produced today, I think that's a pretty safe bet that that's going to be the case.
Yeah, Jacob, I think you're definitely right. Taylor Collins was one of the players who stood out to me, but I think maybe she was a little bit like quiet and not as way up in your face like I had a great game because she only had 12 points, which is no small margin, to start with. But she impacted the game in so many different ways. Right now, I'm just going through her stats. She had 8 total rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, which that's never something that she wants, but not a terrible margin there for as many minutes as she played. She played 38 minutes, tying Jamisbury for the team high, and she also had 2 blocks and 2 steals. So, yeah, Taylor Collins, I thought she played really well, and she's only a freshman, and to have such a level-headed, even-keeled performance in your first conference game, first road game, first Bedlam, I thought it was pretty impressive for a freshman.
And then I thought another person that sort of stood out to me was also Jamie Asbury. You kind of mentioned it a little bit in there, but I thought she shot a lot more efficiently in this one than she did against Tulsa on Sunday. And, when you shoot as well as she was shooting today, good things are going to happen. And it certainly looked to be the case because when she was on the court, it looked like the Cowgirls had a serious advantage at any position that she was playing at, any position she was guarding. She looked to be more energized. I think she was probably the quickest person on the court a lot of the time. And, that's a really good sign whenever you have that kind of energy that you can bring in and take out without losing any beat. And I think that's exactly what Jamisbury brought today.
I think that's a great callback. Asbury certainly had a much more efficient night from the field in this game compared to just a couple of days ago against Tulsa. And obviously, Natasha Mack, like, we don't want to forget about her because she's just so consistent with this team. 16 points, just another phenomenal outing from her. Had a couple rough stretches where she missed some short shots, but in the end, she was, someone who Oklahoma State, or who, excuse me, the Sooners, with a limited roster, didn't really have an answer for. Someone Coach Littell also mentioned who didn't play as many minutes or score as many points, but also had a really pronounced effect on the game was Micah Dennis. What did you see from her?
Yeah, I thought now I don't remember, I'm not seeing exactly how many minutes she played right now, but I certainly thought that the minutes she did play were impactful minutes and they weren't minutes to forget about, because I thought she made a few good shots. I'm pretty sure she made one runner in the paint that I think really established that the Cowgirls are going to be able to get inside. And whenever you have even your guards getting inside, that's a good sign as well. And I think everything kind of fell the right way to get that opportunity for a lot of these bench players that needed that spark and needed that boost to kind of get their rhythm going this season. And I thought that was certainly one of the key. I think it was a key of this game, was just how much influence that she had whenever she was on the court. And I think that's a really good sign for the Cowgirls bench depth.
Absolutely. And as you said, with that bench depth, it kind of felt like everybody had a good game today, right? Whereas against Tulsa, Jacob, we were looking at each other being like, man, there's only a couple players here who really, would even feel like strongly about this performance and had, even like a moderately decent night. So yeah, it's amazing what a win against Oklahoma will do. It feels like everybody has a good night.
Yeah. And now let's also mention this. This is the first road game that OSU has played in this year. And their opener was supposed to be against Arkansas Little Rock on the road, but they never got the chance to play that game. So this was our first impression from them playing in a building that wasn't Gallagher-Iba. And I certainly thought they lived up to the test. I thought for the most part in this game, they were the better team outside of maybe that late 14-0 run that OU had. I think they were the better team throughout the entire game. And to have that kind of, you have to look at it and say, you're going into the opponent's gym and, the crowd's not going to be favorable to you. And I mean, they responded with about as good a performance as you could have asked for the circumstance that they were in, and needing to come off needing to have a good bounce back game off a loss on Sunday. And I thought they certainly looked up for the challenge and they did really well today.
I think, Jacob, part of what made that response, like you said, so good was the first quarter that the Cowgirls had today. It was just 2 days ago when the Cowgirls gave up 23 first half points, or excuse me, first quarter points against Tulsa. And, they were just like immediately behind the eight ball to begin with. They were down 9 points in the first quarter. And Coach Littell later said that they just dug themselves a big hole that even a crazy, furious comeback in the fourth quarter couldn't dig themselves out of. So something we were going to watch was how the Cowgirls started in this Bedlam game. And yeah, giving up only 8 points in the entire first quarter, leading 15-8, I thought their response was much better in that first quarter.
I certainly think it was roles reversed from basically a few nights ago, because a few nights ago we were sitting here looking at the game as it was going on. And I mean, the thoughts that were going through my head were, this is a really not good start. And if you're going to do this, you're not going to win this basketball game. And kind of, it was roles reversed tonight, where it was like, after the first quarter, you're like, you play at this level, you're going to win this basketball game. That's not a question. I mean, it just wasn't a question. They were by far, that kind of first quarter will win you the basketball game. And I think, the second quarter was a little more even, I felt like. maybe a little more at times. But the third quarter, when they came out in the third quarter, I think the game was finished off. They finished off this contest in the third quarter. And, coming out of halftime and coming into the game, those are the two main quarters that establish a tone. And I certainly thought that both of those quarters, the Cowgirls won really effectively. And for the most part, I think it influenced how the fourth quarter went. And I think it influenced how right before halftime they kind of got that momentum back. And, I think it was something like a 19-4 run spanning from the end of the second quarter to the middle of the third quarter,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's certainly that was the turning point in this game, I think.
No, I'm right there with you. It's important to start out good in the first half and start out good kind of when the game restarts in the second half. And the Cowgirls did both of those things tonight on their way to a 13-point Bedlam victory. Always good to get that first one if you're a team, looking to gain some momentum. And I can't think of any better way to gain momentum than a victory against your in-state rival. Jacob, did you have any other final thoughts on the Cowgirls' victory today?
Man, I really think we covered a majority of it. I thought it was just a really good team performance. I don't think there's a whole lot else to say. They just looked like the better team tonight.
I'm right there with you. So, Jacob, Cowgirls will next be in action on Friday night in Gallagher Arena against West Virginia. That should be a good game. I know West Virginia is probably going to have more than 7 players available, so the Cowgirls will definitely try and be up to that task. But hey, Cowgirls are 1-0 going into conference play. That's as good as you can get. So, for the Ocali women's basketball recap, Ben Hutchens, Jacob Sturm, coming at you. You'll hear from us again on Friday for the Cowgirls game against West Virginia. Thanks for joining us.